Welcome to the DevReady Podcast. Joining me on today's podcast, I have Ken Thomas. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks for having me, Anthony.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and I'm glad to be your first podcast. I'll take it easy on you. It's just a bit of a conversation. There won't be any grilling.
Yeah, no, thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
No problem. So we haven't met before, so I'll let you take care of your introduction and let everyone know who you are and what you do.
Oh, well, thank you. So, yeah, a bit of a thing. I am the founder of TenClub, an outsourced sales agency with the mission of solving the small business sales problem in Australia. We help owner-founders transition out of their sales processes and get them ready to make that first sales hire, because we know traditionally, up to 50% of first sales hires often fail, and more often than not, it's because they don't actually have a sales process for that person coming into the business to follow. And so they're sort of a little bit stuck, and expectations are unmet because it can take between 9 and 18 months for a salesperson to actually get a return on investment. So we really want to speed that process up, and knowing that if we can take even 100 businesses from sub $2 million of revenue past that barrier, the amount of value that's actually going to be created in the economy. Who knows how we're going to be able to measure that, right? But all the jobs and it's just one of those things, and I'm really passionate about it because I just love helping people. So,
well, it's a good mission to have, and helping people's what we do as well. That's what we're here for. So it's always providing advice and trying to explain to people, all right, this is what you could be doing, this is what you don't know, this is how you should be doing it from what we've seen. So that's always a good thing. I didn't realize there was such a long time frame to get an ROI on someone. We've tried a couple of times and we didn't know what we were doing back then. So I can vouch for those stats in that time frame because we never saw it. Before we dive into it a bit more, what's TenClub, the name, and what does it stand for, or is there a story there?
Yeah, so it's not Pearl Jam, just throwing it out there for those who know who the fan club for Pearl Jam. And as someone who listened to Pearl Jam a bit as a kid, because Mum used to always have Triple M on the radio, and they got a fair rotation. They still do get a fair rotation on Triple M, but I had no idea. But anyway, the whole premise was that I didn't want to have a sales trophy name, lead this, sales that. Just for me, doesn't really resonate. But 10x, so get your first 10 employees, your first 10 new sales, 10x your growth, etc. That definitely does resonate with me, and I'm very passionate about sport, and have been involved quite heavily in community sport over the journey. And so, being involved in clubs has always been part of my life. So I thought, we'll come, TenClub, and almost join the club, right? So that's where the name came from.
Nice. All right, cool. It's a nice little story there. So my assumption is going to be that you had a bit of sales experience before, or you were in certain sales roles at organizations and you sort of moved out onto your own. Is that sort of the path you went along?
That's correct, but it's a little bit more diverse than that. So I started fresh-faced on checkouts at Woolies, and actually went on the journey there to get into management, and so had a decade-long career working my way through the ranks in supermarkets, which actually gave me a very good grounding for sales, because everything's about customer. Everything is about customer and how you talk to people and how you interact with people. And as we know in sales, particularly today, right, it's so customer led, right? And you have to understand their needs. And so that really helped me, and then pivoted out of Woolworths into corporate sales. So I was at Kimberly-Clark for a few years, and that was a great experience. And then pivoted out of that into metal fabrication, of all things, working for a company that does really high-end custom work for brands like Chanel, Tiffany, Dior. So that was absolutely fascinating. So again, bit of a pivot.
Would that be like the retail
consumer goods into manufacturing? But that was a great experience.
Would that be like the retail shelves and things like that if it's metal fabrication?
Well, yeah. So, for example, if you go into a Myer or a David Jones, and you go into the cosmetics section, all of those frames.
Oh, those displays of frames.
Those highly mirror polished frames. That's what we did.
That makes sense.
And still do. It's not there anymore, but COVID hit and things obviously changed dramatically. And I was sort of left thinking, well, what do I want to do? I'd actually dropped out of uni originally to go on that career path with Woolies, and always had this nagging thing of wanting to go back and test myself. And so, went and did an MBA and really pushed myself, managed to do well enough that they actually asked me to come back and teach.
Oh, well,
so
that's cool.
I'm still on the books
Yep.
at RMIT to teach. So that's something that I can drop in and out of, which is a lot of fun because, again, just wanting to give back and help. That's really
that would be an interesting thing to do, because then you're not selling to to clients or prospective clients or to your clients effectively. You're just imparting some knowledge on them, and you can have a lot of fresh people with different ideas and perspectives on things as well. So you'll be able to probably absorb a lot from them too.
Oh, for sure. And some of the people, especially going through MBA programs, have such diverse backgrounds. And the conversations that you can have with people that, owner founders that are trying to just upskill, or people that are fairly senior positions, right, in large corporates that are trying to go to that next level. Absolutely fantastic breeding ground for sharing ideas. And love the fact that I've still got that connection, but also still in sales and worked at a fintech for a few years. And that's sort of where TenClub crystallized, right? Because I was dealing a lot with small businesses and seeing the same problems over and over and over again. And after doing my MBA, I said to myself, within 5 years, I'm either running a business or running my own. And set myself a really hard timeline, right? And that previous role just sped everything up because I was, again, passionate about helping people, and people kept telling me that I was good at sales, and as you do with imposter syndrome, you don't really believe it. And then you look at the numbers and go, okay, maybe there's something to it here. And so, a few conversations with people sort of crystallized this idea, and to go in and really help businesses with their sales process, with their lead generation, and then closing deals for them and actually transitioning the owner out of the sales process to really help them get to the next level came about. And its first year is basically done and dusted now, and it's been a great experience testing and learning. But the appetite in the market has been phenomenal. Very rarely will come across someone that doesn't need help in some way, shape or form. And even if it's not me, the network of people that I've built around myself over the last couple of years has allowed me to even just help pass various businesses on to others who have the knowledge and experience to help them and take them to the next level if I'm not the right fit, right? Like we're talking, there's a few businesses that they might need a fractional sales director, right? They got a team of business development managers or salespeople, and they just have no clear leadership. Or there's heaps of people out there that can provide a great service using that fractional model in sales, or alternatively, they're just starting up and they sort of don't really know what they need, and they just think, oh, well, I need someone else to do sales because I hate it. It's like, well, I understand where you're coming from, but do you have any business processes in place at the moment, or you're just sort of winging it? And so we can sort of, again, help on the front end too. And that just brings me a lot of joy, right? As long as you can help people, whether it's me and through TenClub, or whether it's through other connections that I have, it's all coming back towards that mission, right? Like it's all about solving the small business sales problem in this country.
And I think we have a similar philosophy there. We want to help people, and we're happy to pass on other people that will provide value and help them, not necessarily just work with us, because we can't solve every problem. We've got our niche that we stick to as well. But that is, I think the fractional thing has really opened up a lot of doors for a lot of businesses, because if you are just starting, you can't afford a full-time salary of a very experienced, qualified salesperson. No. And there's not many that are commission only. You're probably going to get some retired person. You just need something to do and kick some time around. And then, all right, if he makes a sale, he'll get some cash. But it's a big outlay. So having that fractional ability, or someone like yourself to be able to come in and support the business and help them grow is very important.
Well, it's surprising how many people don't actually realize the cost of a salesperson in their business, particularly for someone with experience, right? We're talking $200,000 a year once you include all the expenses to the business. For that person. You're $1 million business. You can't afford that. I mean, the founder's not paying themselves that much, right?
That's what happens.
It's really hard to justify paying an employee that kind of wage and entitlements and commissions when the owner's not seeing that kind of reward. And then you throw in how long it takes to get the return on the investment. It's just just an opportunity to create friction that doesn't need to exist. And in coming back to fractional, right, whether it's marketing, whether it's human resources, whether it's finance, like accounting and bookkeeping, how many businesses have that in-house, right? The rise of the fractional chief marketing officer and the marketing agency, and just because it's not your core competency, right? Like so many businesses start off the back of someone being good at what they do, but that's, they're not necessarily prepared for all the hats that they have to wear in a business. So just outsource it until you have the capacity to bring that in-house, and then you're hiring a resource, right?
I agree with that. You're better off outsourcing the stuff you don't like than the stuff you do like, because you'll never do it as good as the stuff you do. I agree. I don't know where I heard it, but I've probably repeated it 100 times over all the episodes in this podcast, but it rings true. If you're just doing something because you know you have to and you don't like it, you're never going to give it. You may think you're giving it 100%, but you're always going to take a shortcut somewhere. You're going to do something a bit different. So you can do it for a certain amount of time, but you do need to bring in support where it's needed, because then that'll free you up for more high value items where you'll do it faster and better, or you know how to do it easier, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely agree. With a lot of the businesses you work with, have you seen that there's a lot of them, like you mentioned, probably business processes aren't up to scratch yet? Like they think they need a salesperson, but they're not ready for it?
Oh, the majority.
Yeah.
The majority of businesses that I talk to, they're just not ready for it yet. Or alternatively, they actually need a customer service representative who can just deal with inbound calls because they've got a great business, great product, great service. And they just need someone to be able to answer really basic questions about their offering and help point them in the right direction. Sort of almost having a really solid marketing funnel, bringing in inbound leads. And you don't necessarily need to spend big dollars on a salesperson to deal with that, right? As long as someone understands the product and isn't just dealing with the inbound, they're also dealing with your current clients, etc. And it's a much lower cost to the business. And so many people don't necessarily realize that. Also, there's a misconception, and coming back to what I was talking about earlier, that hiring a salesperson is going to be the same cost to the business as that customer service person.
Yeah, be a big difference there.
It's just not. It's not the same.
Do you see people confuse sort of the role for like lead gen and marketing with sales? Because the sales, from my understanding, they're not there for lead gen. They're the ones that the leads go to.
Well, it's sort of, this is a really interesting one because it comes particularly in the B2B space, right? How different industries believe, and this could be a hot take, happy to take criticism on this, but different industries believe that their sales process is special and that it's different.
Yep.
Sorry to break it to you, your sales process is not special. It's not different. Yeah, sure, the length of your sales cycle might be different to other businesses, but the process itself of making sure that you have leads coming in from organic activities such as your website and anything that's being driven to that, your network and referrals, right? So any groups that you're involved in, any customers that are referring clients to you, and then your outbound, right? So whether that's cold calls, email campaigns, etc. All of your leads are going to come from one of those places, all driven by your core value proposition and your ideal client profile, right? These are things that are ubiquitous across every single business. And then chances are you're going to pitch to them at some point. You're doing a discovery call before that to actually try and qualify them. You're sending a quote or a proposal and you're closing the deal. Sure, you might have to talk to different stakeholders throughout that process, which lengthen it. But coming back to first principles, right? The bones of it are the same everywhere. What I really find is that how you generate leads is different depending on the business. So if you're a small business, let's say, for example, in professional services, right? You need to have some form of advertising or organic activity that's happening to build credibility, right? So whether it's doing podcasts, whether it's writing blog posts, whether it's paying for advertising on Meta, potentially LinkedIn, for example, and then having some form of outbound. So whether it's LinkedIn messaging, whether it's outbound calling, emails, etc. That's one way that you're going to generate leads. However, if you're a product-based business and you're trying to get in with your Kmarts, your Targets, right? Or your Coles, Woolies, Aldi, you need to take a more account-based marketing approach to generate your leads. But once you have that lead, the process is the same. You're doing discovery, you're pitching to them, you're sending them a proposal, and you're doing some negotiation potentially at some point throughout the course of that process and closing the deal. It's always the same, and people don't realize this. I suppose that's what's really important for me. When I said businesses aren't ready for a salesperson because they don't have that process in place at all. They don't even have a CRM, right? They're tracking everything either in their head or it's on a Google sheet or an Excel spreadsheet.
Yep, the power tool of every business, Excel or Google Sheets.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Excel and Google Sheets have their place and they're extremely powerful tools, but that's not your single source of truth when it comes to sales. And there's so many great free options out there, right? You consider Zoho, HubSpot. They're free tools for sales. Absolutely brilliant. You don't have to spend an arm and a leg to get something really basic in place to help you set up your sales process.
So do you see that with the businesses, or so if they get to that next step where they've got their processes in place for the sales, do they have trouble onboarding the salesperson because they don't have their sales process like documented and clear enough and understand the actual value proposition? Because I'm guessing you're dealing with owner founders. It's going to be those guys are doing all the calls, they're doing the sales off the top of their heads probably a lot of the times. They're not going to have all the assets ready and set up and have a repetitive spiel every single time.
Oh, extremely common. And we're not talking about War and Peace.
Yeah.
And I really have to stress that, particularly in the small business space. It's just something as simple as having a CRM in place, contacts going in there, creating deals, and then having a deal flow of this is your discovery call, this is the pitch, this is the proposal and quote, and then it's closed off. And just having that in the CRM, simple, very, very simple and straightforward, and then having a very clear idea of what your core value proposition is so the salesperson can soak that in and know it at their core and know who the ideal client profile is, whether you've got 1, 2, or 3, regardless, depending on the products or services that you have. But they need to know that and understand their pain points. And then as soon as you get to that first conversation, a very simple funneling technique of questions. Start with why did you fill out an inquiry? Why are you interested in our product or service? And then triage it down and actually understand whether or not they need your product or service, and then take it from there. Creating a basic pitch deck. Again, doesn't need to be War and Peace. We're talking 8 to 12 slides maximum. And then tailoring the content of that, 20% of the content being tailored to the prospect's needs and what they've told you in that discovery call. Having a really basic proposal or quote structure that you know, whether they're various software that can be used. There's heaps of it. I mean, you can even create invoices and stuff from Zoho or HubSpot. Yeah. So many tools that are available to you, and using something like DocuSign, for example, or even just using your SharePoint if you're using Microsoft, and sending them the SharePoint link, getting them to sign it and send it back to you. I mean, this doesn't need to be complicated.
Yeah.
So many
people... I didn't know you could sign on SharePoint.
Pardon, sorry?
I didn't know you could sign documents on SharePoint.
Well, it's just a PDF, right? You just share the PDF, and as long as they've got
Adobe.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be able to sign it. Or if they're using Apple devices, right? You just in preview, you can have your signature loaded in. You just add it into that part of the form. Absolutely brilliant, right? And then also coming back and considering the simplicity of the sales process. This misnomer that sales is really hard. Sales isn't hard. Sales is about behaviors and consistent behaviors, and understanding. And I suppose this is probably the next thing that's really important for a business to consider when they're going to make that first sales hire, is the profile, like the psychometric profile of that person. Do they fit your business? Is this a really highly technical sale? Do you need someone that is able to absorb details and learn really fast? Or is it a relationship sale? And do you need someone that's really personable and loves a conversation, loves a chat? If you don't understand what your needs are for the kind of salesperson you require, it's going to cause big problems when you go to make that first sales hire. It's part of the problem that we want to try and help them understand what they actually need at the back end when that time comes.
Yeah, and knowing which person to send out based on
Exactly.
the person they're talking to, because some will get along, some won't.
Yeah,
So there's a lot there that you need to cover, but it may sound like it's the basics, but when you're starting out, even the basics are difficult. It takes time to get that process and that repetitive and be consistent in doing what you're doing, so you can have a process.
Yeah, for sure. And coming back to the fractional model, right? It's understand your core competency. And there's so many opportunities for that to just get your basics in place of talking to someone who can really help you do that. And particularly in the small business space, it's always going to be cost effective. Like, no one's here to rip people off and charge them egregious fees. Everyone really wants to help each other at the end of the day. It's both definitely aligned on that front, right?
Yeah.
And so many others that I know within my network feel the same way. Everyone's just out there to help each other.
Yeah, you hear people say it's the karma, you put out what and you get back, but it's just wanting to help and knowing that there's people who don't know what you know will take forever to try and get that information. So if you can help them, just help them, because it doesn't take you long to share a bit of knowledge that will get someone a step ahead. So we've been trying to do that for a long time, and we don't sell in like LinkedIn or any social thing. It's just information.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's all the information I can tell you. I don't know how many videos I've made, which is, do you need an app or a website, or do you need this, or this is how you do something, or this is something you didn't know, and just putting it out there, just someone will remember it and someone will get some value from it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's probably underrated by some people, and it may be tied back to a scarcity mindset. But at the end of the day, if you're really good at what you do, there's nothing wrong with sharing everything you know, because at the end of the day, if you can give value to someone and they take a small piece of it, add it into their business, that helps their business grow, you've actually contributed to something much bigger than yourself. But if they can't do it and they can't implement, they're going to come to you to do it for you.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
No one's going to spend 10 years getting the level of what you were at 10 years and having all that knowledge to be able to do what you're doing, or however long it may be. They're not going to do it. No one's going to steal your ideas. No one's going to try and get to your skill level to be able to implement things themselves.
No.
In sales and marketing, I think you may have people trying that a bit more than in our space, because programs are probably a bit more technical. See, it's a bit harder to get on the tools to do things, where people can sign up to a CRM and start sending crappy emails out to people and running shitty ads on Meta. But it's doing it and doing it well are two very different things.
Yeah.
So they're having guidance from someone like yourself and the team and the support will actually get you there the right way.
Yeah.
So just touching back on at the start of the conversation, sort of mentioned where you were at that fintech, you had like a little bit of like an imposter syndrome, and then you took the leap. What was it that made you take that leap to say, all right, the stats and everything I'm doing actually prove that I can do this, and then let's go?
It's really comes down to my support network of people making jokes, right? Of Ken's got the CEO mindset. He's just going to do this. He's going to take over the company. He's going to do all this stuff. For me, it's ridiculous, right?
Yep.
And it was a bit of a running joke at the company, and I was a bit uncomfortable with it because it's never the intention, but it was just everything coming back to behaviors, always trying to think about how you can improve, how you can grow, and generate value for people. Mm-hmm. That's always sort of been my mindset, and having enough people sort of drill that into my brain gave me the confidence to actually take that leap of faith. Okay. I'm also very lucky that my wife is brilliant, and she's very good at recognizing when I actually just need to go and do something, and she's really, really incredibly supportive of everything that I want to do. So it has all come down to the support network.
It's important to have that. Oh yeah, without having support at home from my wife, probably wouldn't be here for this long.
Yeah,
we've been almost 17 years, so it's been a journey, and there's been a lot of support there along the way.
Yeah,
yeah. So, what are some key sort of takeaways you can give to? All right, you're a founder, startup. You've got some processes in place. You're starting to think about, all right, I need to start divvying up my time between sales and some of whatever the other roles are that you're doing in the business, or the ones that you actually enjoy doing, what are some key things they can start doing to start preparing to bring in someone like yourselves or a fractional, or just lead the way to get into that part, that restructuring of the way they're running the business?
Yeah, the first thing, and you've touched on it there, the first thing has to be, what do they enjoy doing? And if they enjoy doing sales, well, then that sort of needs to be the last hat that they remove. But sit down, pen and paper, and just map it out, or whatever method that you use to sort of put your thoughts down onto a page, so to speak, whether it's a real one or a virtual one, or how you organize your thoughts. And then if it's not a core competency of yours, go and find someone, talk to your network, see who they know that can help you, because there will be someone, because everything in this life is just a couple of conversations away, right? So just pick up the phone, send that email, and ask the people that you know, I don't really want to do this. Do you know someone that can help me? And then understand that not everything is always going to work out. Not everyone you speak to is going to resonate with you. And having your values and your vision and mission for the business at the core of everything that you do will help you. So when you sit down, you create those priorities, what you want to do, and then what's your core competency. And then I'm going to go talk to someone. When you do talk to them, make sure they resonate with you and that they're going to be aligned with what you're trying to achieve in your business.
Okay, so that's all clear. Just something that came into my mind. I don't know if it sort of aligns with notes. So when you are, say, looking for that salesperson to come in, and whether they're fractional or not, do you think there's a certain level or a level of experience that you should approach or you shouldn't approach, because then they don't want to get into the weeds and be doing? They're more like the managers. Is that something to consider, or you've experienced?
So, okay, this is a really interesting question, and I'm glad you've asked it. Because you've sort of got, well, if you go in and you hire someone who's never done sales before, completely green, don't know what they're doing, if you don't have any process in place, they will fail miserably.
Yep.
And you'll be scratching your head questioning, but hey, you haven't paid an arm and a leg for them, so there's that as a positive. If you get someone that's got a medium level of experience, let's say they've done it for a couple of years, like their next role, I've already worked at a company, they have some understanding of what a sales process should look like, then they're probably going to have more success. But unless you give them very clear metrics to measure them by, whether it's behavior-based or whether it's performance-based, and if you don't have a clear sales process, they're going to bang their head against the wall because they're going to ask you as the owner founder for certain tools, and you're not going to know how to give them to them. If you go and hire an experienced salesperson, again, it's going to cost you top dollar, but they're going to come in, they're going to be able to implement all the tools, they're going to know how to navigate the conversation, actually make these things happen and set stuff up in your business. But know that because you're paying them a very good wage, you've got to give them time. You just have to, because they're going to need 12 months. You can't just expect, even if someone is experienced, that they're going to walk straight into your business and they're going to make a material difference from day one. They might make a material difference in terms of your processes and procedures and the tools that you're using within your business, but they're not going to be generating you significant results for a long period, not at least payback right on their wage. It's going to take a year to happen. So it's, what's your timeline? If your timeline is really quick, then this is, I suppose, why I've created TenClub, is to solve for this problem, because you want
immediate results.
People that are experienced, right? It's really, really easy to measure what we're doing, because it's all going to be based off how many, what's happening with the process, making sure that deals are moving through your pipeline, and what's the conversion rate at the end of the day. Very easy to measure, and you're not paying an arm and a leg to actually make this happen with your business. And you can do it with a staged approach as well. I'm not just coming in saying we have to be your full salesperson. Like, we can just get your sales process set up. And then once that's done, let's start doing lead generation, and let's see what your team can do with those leads. And we work very closely with that business as the leads come in to make sure that everything's actually being managed and happening, and everyone's happy with with the leads that are coming in. And then if you just don't have time, or if your team don't have the capability, that's when we can step in to start transitioning you and your team out of the deal closing portion of your sales process, so that all of a sudden you can get to that revenue target or profit target, whatever we decide at the start before the end of the engagement. So you're ready and you're firing, and you know when you hire this salesperson for the first time that they're actually going to be able to come in and generate you a result much quicker than they would have otherwise.
Yep. And then the last one's probably going to be try and stay away, if you're a founder or a thing, from like the sales manager type role, where they're no longer doing the day-to-day. They're managing the team of salespeople or whatever they're doing, but not getting in the weeds and doing the day-to-day actual sales work. You're not at that point where you need any of that yet.
No, exactly. Like once you get to that point at the end of the journey, I mean, the only thing you need to worry about sales is turning up for a meeting for 20 minutes, half an hour each week, saying what's happening with the pipeline.
Yeah, they might not even know what CRM is being used in the business they're currently in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, here's the report of what we're doing. This is what the opportunities are, and these are the deals that we've closed. And at the end of the quarter or the end of the month, what's the activity report? Have the salespeople been doing what they're meant to be doing?
Yeah. It's just understanding where you're at and having the right person come in to fill the need that you have, and you guys provide awesome service for that. Well, Ken, it's been an awesome chat. I can definitely see the passion that you've got coming out in the way you talk and how you want to do things, and there to assist. If anyone wants some of that assistance and they want to reach out, how can they do that?
Yeah, so the best places to interact with myself and with TenClub, firstly, is with LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Both either my personal LinkedIn profile or the TenClub page. Yep. Also our website, www.tenclub.com.au.
Awesome. Well, we'll also put those links in the show notes. And once again, Ken, thanks for joining me on today's episode of the podcast.
And appreciate you having me today, Anthony. And thanks very much for not grilling me first time out.
Not a problem. It was a fun chat, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.